continuation of series on my book called The Heresy of Heresies, A Defense of Christian Common Sense Realism. And we're working our way through chapter 2 of the book. And we're looking at the 4 steps to understanding the nature of reality. 4 steps. Like that's it? Yeah, pretty much. There's only 4 steps. Maybe you shorten it to 2 or 3, but the last couple of videos walk you through the first 3 steps, and let me repeat those just quickly, and then we'll jump into step 4 in this video. So, step 1: have some experiences. Just look around. Have some ordinary sense experiences. That's it. Super simple. Step 2: notice, pay attention, reflect on the fact that each of the things you experience exist. That's it. Super simple. Have some experiences. Pay attention to the idea that these things are real and that you can grasp that they're real. Okay, that's it. Super simple. Step 3, a little harder, more metaphysically difficult, maybe. It's like how to play a sport, right? How do you surf? Well, get a board and then go out in the ocean. Step 1, get a board. Step 2, go out in the ocean. Okay. You're well on your way. Now, step 3, right? Stand up, right? In surfing. Get a board, go out in the ocean, stand up. A little more involved than that, but step 3 in the process, after you've had some experiences and pay attention to the things that you are aware of exist, then what you do is you are aware of the commonality of being that are had in all the things you exist. Right? So step 3 is pay attention to the idea or the awareness of the reality that being is common to all things that exist in your ordinary sense experience. Okay, now step 4. So far, so good. Okay, step 4. Here's what occurs in step 4. In step 4, what you're going to be doing is making another judgment about what you've experienced through your senses. Okay, this next step is another kind of judgment. Okay, so you take the evidence from simple apprehension that you have so far and make one final judgment. You judge that what each thing is, for example, the fence and the tree, is not the same thing as those things' existence. Okay, so let me say that again. You see the tree and you see the fence, and you realize that what they are, that is the being of a tree and the being of a fence, are 2 different things. They're related, but they're distinct. So you simply see, say, the treeness, that is the nature of the tree, or existing treely, you want to put it adverbially, and the fenceness, right, the existence of the fence, or existing fencely, you want to put it adverbially. That's different than existence itself. Okay, so the being of a fence and the being of the tree is different than being a tree or being a fence. Now that might sound a little weird. Put it in another way, you can see that existence itself is not the same thing as any essence held by a particular thing. So if the essence of a tree is one thing and the existence of a fence is another, but these 2 things share in common the fact that they exist, right? Then the question is, well, how is it that they can share being but be different kinds of things? Okay, so when you ask that question, now you're on your way to understanding what existence itself is. Okay, so here at this stage, what we're going to do is we judge that there's a difference between existence itself and the existence of the things that actually exist. We judge that there are essences to the fence or to a natural kind like the tree, because what makes that thing back there a tree and not, say, a pool full of water or an atmosphere in the sky or a fence, right? I mean, I guess you could take a tree and make fences out of them, but as a tree, right, we judge that there's an essence to the fence and an essence to the tree. Now we've arrived at the end of our foundation for a study of existence. Here it is. Now we judge, we recognize it's a direct awareness, our mind grasping this reality, that what makes a tree and a fence, existing as the kinds of things that they are, is the unity of the thing's essence with its act of existing. For a crow or a fence or a tree to exist, is for each of them to actualize their essence. Okay, so I'm going to say that again. What we are aware of now is a kind of judgment, an awareness, a direct apprehension of these things. That to exist, for that thing back there, this thing back here, to exist is to exemplify the essential nature of a tree. For the fence to exist is to exemplify the nature or the essence of a fence, and so on down the line. So let me recap these 4 steps here for us, just to kind of sum up. Step 1, you apprehend objects through sense experience. Step 2, you judge that being, the existence, is general from your experience. You recognize that everything you experience is real and exists. Step 3, you judge that being is separate from the properties or the essential nature of things, right? You realize that to be a tree is distinct from the treeness itself, right? Because that tree could exist, it does exist, but it's possible that it didn't exist. Treeness could exist without there being a tree. So that it's separate, that the being is separate from the properties of the tree. And then finally, the last step, step 4, is to know that to be is in general to be in act, or being is essential actualization. Okay, so those are the 4 steps you get to this notion of being as essential exemplification. So what is existence itself? To exist is to exemplify an essential nature. Now that's going to apply to everything that exists, everything. Now for God, on a Christian view of God, it's going to be a little different. Not so much in that God's being is not essential exemplification, but rather his essence is to exist. His essential nature is his being. Right? His being and his existence are identical. That's not the case with everything else. The being and the existence of things are separate. To be is to exemplify an act. But for God, on a Christian view, God's essential nature is his being. So to exist is the essence of who God is. Okay. We'll get more into that in the discussion of the personal understanding of existence from the notion of I am. Okay. So in the next section of the book, I talk a little bit more in detail about this notion of judgment. And here's just a quotation from Martin to wrap this up. In forming a judgment, this is from his book, The Existence and the Existent. In forming a judgment, the intellect, on the one hand, knows the subject as singular, and on the other hand affirms that this singular subject exercises the act of existing. In other words, the intellect itself exercises on the notion of the subject and act, the act of affirming, by which the intellect lives intentionally the existence of the thing. So in your ordinary act of experience, of receiving the qualities of the world, and I would say you receive those as a gift, they're something given. We don't have control over the things that exist or our own existence, right? Those are all given to us. But when we experience those things, we are directly aware of the nature of things, and we are aware of the being of things, and we're aware that the being and the nature of those things is distinct. And thus, by further reflecting, we can see that to be, in general, is to exemplify an essential nature. And once you've got that, now you're on your way to doing metaphysics. This is the beginning point. It's not the end, it's the beginning. And so the understanding of the world that we live in, the entire universe, the total possibility of objects of experience, by means of which the intellect might be able to live intentionally the existence of the thing, we're struck by an obvious fact. It's the fact that what the universe has in common is existence, to quote Frederick Wilkinson in his paradoxical structure of existence. Now we're faced with a dilemma. So here's the dilemma from Wilhelmsen. Again, this is Friedrich Wilhelmsen's book called The Paradoxical Structure of Existence. He says, here's the dilemma. There's something that is not existence, or there is existence itself. The first one of the dilemma, there's something that is not existence, is a contradiction, and is really saying that something exists that doesn't exist. Now, if the logical relation of contradiction really does have bearing on reality, then option A is a non-starter. Okay? You're not going to get very far with that. So we're left with option B. Existence itself exists. Wilhelmsen claims that existence is found in our universe. So given this dilemma, we're left with option B. Existence itself exists. Wilhelmsen claims that existence found in the universe, or any possible object of common sense, points to pure existence. Wilhelmsen claims that this is a Christian discovery and moves us beyond all metaphysical systems from the ancient world, that's especially Plato and Aristotle. Here's what Wilhelmsen writes. If a Christian metaphysician had to designate the contingent being he encounters from without and experiences from within, he might do well to call it providential. In its radical contingency, being points to its author, and thus proclaims itself a gift. Such a beautiful passage. I love that passage. Read it. Should I read it again? If a Christian metaphysician had to designate the contingent being he encounters from without and experiences from within, he might well do well to call it providential. In its radical contingency, being points to its author, and thus proclaims itself a gift. The universe of Christian this is me writing now. The universe of Christian common sense metaphysical realists is a world of joy, receiving its existence from whose essence it is. From him whose essence is his existence. Right. Okay, thanks for watching. If you're enjoying these videos, like and subscribe. That's the end of this chapter, chapter 2. The rest of the chapter, there's quite a bit more to this chapter, but it's logically a little bit more complex. In that section, I deal with something called the Bradley and regress objection to essential exemplification. It's an objection from a philosopher named Bradley, and he thinks that you end up with a regress problem if you maintain that existence is essential exemplification. So I try to overcome that. It's a regress problem that's held by also maintained by another contemporary philosopher named William Vallicella, and he goes after Vallicella has a really nice criticism of this in a couple different articles, and as well as his book. Anything you can read by Vallicella is going to be helpful, but the defense that I'm offering here follows J.P. Moreland on the nature of relations. So if you're interested in that, you pick up the book. It's section 2.3 in the book, and it's a little more detailed, a little more logic involved, and probably best left in the book as opposed to in a YouTube video. All right, thanks for watching. If you're enjoying these videos, like and subscribe. The next series of videos will be on chapter 3, and walk you through some ideas from the interior path to existence from Edith Stein. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe.
Stay psyched, Grom.